Okay, I thought I'd start by maybe going over some stuff from the lab. I know some of you had difficulty with it, and that's normal. Don't give up or be too frustrated. It's if you're not used to programming, computer programming, or if this is new to you, there's just a lot of things that can be annoying about the situation. Am I too loud, or is this? It's okay. All right. I feel like my own voice is going off inside my head here. Okay, so RStudio, I'm assuming you guys got it installed, and it looks kind of like this for you. I magnified the text, and I'm thinking the R binome and the P norm, that stuff went pretty okay, right? All right, did people have issues with that? All right, and I'm assuming the bulk of any issues that you suffered or experienced was with the World Health Organization data set and the manipulating the data there, okay? And I saw on Facebook that some of you guys used Excel, and while that is okay, you don't have to do that, and it's easier. So if you actually just copy and paste the text into this, I think it opens up a CSV file, okay? So we can open it, and it looks like this, and we've got all these different countries and things like that, just blood pressure data from different countries. All right, but over here in R, we don't have anything like that, so we have to load the data. And so there's a few ways to do it, and one is I'm just going to create something called a location, and in that I'm just creating a URL object, and I'm just taking the URL and I'm putting it into this thing called URL, which turns a text string into a URL. And whatever I call this doesn't even matter. I'm just calling it loc for location, but it really doesn't even matter, okay? And then I'm going to create my data set, okay? And so I'm going to call my data set BP for blood pressure, and I'm just going to do read.csv, and what I'm reading in is LOC for the location, okay? And all it's doing is it's going to say, it's just telling R to look up this URL, because when it sees location, it's actually seeing this URL, and boom, the data is loaded in R. Okay? You could have downloaded the CSV to your hard drive and then done read.csv there, or you could have used the menu commands and done import data set from a text file or things like that. There's all sorts of ways to get your data into R, but this is a simple way to do it. Okay? And then maybe we are curious to look at this column, numeric, which is the average blood pressure for this country. So in line 1, it says mean systolic blood pressure, and it says from the year 2009, from the Eastern Mediterranean region in the country Afghanistan, age group is 25 plus for males, and it says that value for mean blood pressure is 126.4. Okay? So over here, I can just ask what is BP $numeric, and it lists off all of the different blood pressure values that it sees. Okay, so there's 386 observations. That means there's 386 rows in my table, and these ones are the NA values. Okay, and we see that the first one is 126.4, and we have a whole bunch of NAs. Okay, so if I ask, what is the mean of blood pressure $numeric? Okay, $sign just means we're referring to that column, numeric, inside the data set blood pressure, or BP. And if I ask for this I get the error NA, okay? And I explained this on Facebook, but some of you aren't on Facebook. And the reason for this is because we have numbers, and then we are also missing numbers. So if I were to say there are 4 people in my family, and the ages of one person's age is 44, and another person's age is 27, and another person's age is 15, and I don't know the age of the last person, and I ask you, what is the average age of people in this family? What would your answer be?
I can't know.
Yeah, your answer would be, I don't know because I don't know the age of the last person. So, R is basically doing that. It's saying, well, I don't have all of the numbers, so I can't give you the average or the mean of all of the numbers. So you have to tell R specifically, okay, just pretend like these numbers aren't even part of our data set, and take the average of the numbers that you do have. So you have to explicitly tell R to do that, otherwise, it will warn you. Okay, and so there's just one thing that you can type in, and it says na.remove.rm for remove the NAs, and you just want to set that option to true. It defaults to false, but if you set it to true, then it goes through and calculates the mean of the numbers that you have. Some of you said you took the file and you loaded it into Excel, and then you deleted the rows, and then you loaded it back into R and then calculated the mean. That will work, but ultimately it's unnecessary. We have a lot of the things that you want to do that you want to switch over to Excel and do. A lot of those functions can be done in R with just a few text commands. But of course, when you're learning R for the first time, you might not know all of these options or these functions or these different things. And so it will feel like it's a lot easier to do these things in Excel. And probably right now that's actually true. Anytime you get stuck or you don't know, you can always put in a question mark before the function that you're trying to do. Okay, and so here the help pops up over here, and we can expand that, and you can see the different options. And one of them says na.rm equals false, and that means that is an option, and if you don't specify it, it defaults to false up there. Okay, and then this explains the different things that show up. And so we have na.rm is a logical value, meaning you have to put in either true or false, indicating whether not available values should be stripped or removed before proceeding with the computation. Okay. So that's in there, and then a lot of times these help files are long, and so you can always check the examples to see what they have here. Okay, but we have na.rm, things like that. Okay, and then part of your assignment was also to calculate the mean blood pressure for maybe the different regions. Okay, so if we look back here, we see, okay, maybe one of the regions is Europe, and we want to specify that. So there's a few options. Okay, one is we can use the subset command. So I can create a new, basically a new data file. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to subset. And again, if you're not sure how to do subset, you can always just ask $subset, and it gives you some details as to what to do, and then there's also examples of how you can write these subset commands. Okay, and so one thing we can do is create a basically Euro data set, and that's going to be subset, and I'm going to take the data set BP, and I'm going to ask, do it where, oh, not numeric, where BP $sign WHO region is equal to Europe. Okay. And if I do that, we see it creates 106, it pulls out the 106 observations, and we can view that. And we can see that indeed it has all of the ones where World Health Organization region is set to Europe. Okay? And so that I can then take the mean of euro $sign numeric. Okay, and it says not available, so we say .rn equals true. And then we get that. And if we need to, we can create a histogram. Euro $sign numeric. And we can add additional breaks. We could get some more detail in here. Okay. So we have that. So that's one way to create subsets using subset. Another is I can refer to BP using bracket notation, okay? And so bracket notation, you'd have a comma, and basically, if I say the number before the comma refers to the row, and the number after the comma refers to the column. So BP bracket 1, 1 refers to the entry in the first row and the first column. So if I hit enter, what is it going to spit back?
Means systolic blood pressure.
Yeah, it's going to spit back whatever this entire thing says. Okay, it says mean systolic blood pressure, age standardized estimate. Okay, and it says levels, meaning that it sees it as a factor. Okay, and if I leave out the column, okay, and I just have 1 comma blank, it's going to return the entire row. Okay, it's going to return row 1. All right, and so this is. It looks kind of crazy, but what it's spitting back is that the column is indicator and the entry in there is this. For published states, it's published years 2009, WHO region, Eastern Mediterranean country, Afghanistan, age group. So it's basically the contents of that entire row. And we see this in here. Okay, so everything that's in that entire row shows up right here as well. I can put in multiple rows. I can ask, by creating a vector, I could say, give me the first, third, and fifth rows. Okay, so C1, 3, 5, if we don't remember, is just basically sticks these numbers together. Okay, so I can say, give me 1, 3, 5, and it's important that we put 1, 3, 5 in the C function, because otherwise it will think you're talking about the first row, third column, and then it'll see the comma 5, and it won't know what to do with that. Okay, and then so when I hit enter here, it returns entries from the first row, third row, and fifth row. Okay, and so we see that's Eastern Mediterranean, Africa, and Africa for World Health Organization region. Okay. So anyway, using bracket notation, rather than dealing with specifying the actual numbers, I can just ask, is BP $sign WHO.region equal to Europe? Okay, or let's do Africa. Okay, and this is basically asking, is this column equal to Africa? And what it will do is it will go through every entry in that column, and report back true or false. So when I ask VP_WHO.region equals, there needs to be two equal signs to indicate that we are testing to see if they're equal. If you only put one equal sign, it's going to try to assign the value. So if he's, so one equal sign is for assignment, two equal signs is for testing. And what we'll do is it'll look at that first entry, it says Eastern Mediterranean, so it's going to spit back false. Then in the second row, it's going to see Europe, and it's going to say, is that equal to Africa? No, so it returns false. The third row says Africa, so is that equal to Africa? Yes. Fourth row is Europe, it'll say false. Fifth row will say true. Okay, so we're going to see false, false, true, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? And so when I hit enter here, I get a whole bunch of true and false values, but we do see indeed, we get false, false, true for at least the first 5 rows, because the third row and the fifth row say Africa, and then a bunch of other falses and things like that. Okay, so basically, I have a sequence of trues and falses, and I can refer to BP using that sequence of trues and falses. Okay, so I'm going to create a new data set, and I'm asking return the rows where equals Africa. Okay, so this line right here, this part, which is what I just entered before, is the trues and falses. Okay, and then so using the bracket notation, I'm going to take all of those trues and falses and say, give me the rows where it says true. So that's only going to give me the rows where the region is equal to Africa. So I can do that. And indeed, it creates a new data set over here with 92 observations. And if we take a look at it, indeed we see the regions are equal to Africa here. Okay, so we can create little subsets like that and calculate the mean of that. And apparently there's no missing values for numeric column Africa. Okay. Are there questions on this? Or did what I do make sense, or is this nothing made sense? Okay, some of you are nodding your head and some of you are shaking your head. Okay, so those of you who are struggling, or did I just do it too quickly, or?
It just takes practice.
Yeah.
For me, my first time using this, so.
Okay. Yeah, everything does take practice, and when you're typing things into the computer, it's very sensitive to even the slightest thing that's off. Okay, so if I had typed in, if I typed in this, where it's not capital WHO, it would, you see, it fails. Africa has 0 observations. Okay, so it's very sensitive to making sure that everything is spelled correctly. And exactly
Is
so.
there a place that we can go that we have those comments that, that's the struggle I had, was to find out what
Yeah.
types and
So,
what was I typing wrong.
is there a place, so pretty much I learned R through trial and error and looking in the help files and going on Google. All right, that's just how things go. And in the beginning, it's easy to be overwhelmed by the results that you see in Google. But you know, if you did a Google search, you can just say, you know, how do I subset an R? Okay, and you know, there's stuff here, and a lot of these, you know, they give you some sample code. Anytime you see sample code, try typing the sample code into R yourself. Okay, and one thing to help you learn R is that you know, anytime you find example code, rather than copying and pasting all of the code, I highly recommend typing it in yourself. Okay, so so here it's talking about student data. So sometimes you might have to trace back some of the tutorial pages to see where they are loading the data to begin with. Okay, I think I tried giving you a link here in the file. All right. And so you can copy and paste some of this, but then I also recommend, so maybe this thing, sure, we can copy and paste that, but then as you are working through it, I would say rather than copying and pasting this, try typing it in yourself rather than copying and pasting. So it says names, and it says hsb2.small, which is the name of the data file that we created in the previous step. Okay, so it's like, we're going to type in names, and right here it says hsb2.small. And if I type that in, you know, I get this. All right. And what is it? Why is that useful? It tells us the names of the columns that show up in HSP2. Okay. So these, a lot of these learning modules are useful, and I've linked to one in the in our Lab 1 page. Okay. And again, I recommend rather than typing in, copying and pasting, any sample code that you see, typing it in yourself. Okay, and that way you get a sense of what it is that you're supposed to be typing. Okay, because you're typing in correct code, or whenever there's a tutorial page, it should show correct code, and you type in the correct code, and you get a sense of what correct code should look like. When you copy and paste something, your mind doesn't process what the code should look like. Okay, I would say copy and paste only for things like URLs, because everybody knows what a web address is supposed to look like, and usually they're very long and tedious to try to copy and paste. Try to type in directly. But as for code, I think there's a lot to be gained from typing things in by hand rather than copying and pasting. Okay, so yeah, the technology website at UCLA has a few tutorials in R that I think are quite helpful and useful. So anyway, that's what we got. Okay. Yes.
For today's assignment, we're supposed to turn in the regular homework sheet, but
Yeah,
as far as
turn
the
it.
lab, what else are we supposed to turn in for that?
So you turn in the homework sheet and then turn in what you did with the lab. So the lab, you're supposed to answer all the questions, print that out, and then you can turn that in.
And then how are we going to be tested on this?
I have maybe just a few questions on the quiz and maybe like one question on the midterm where I would just ask if you were to try to answer this question in R, what command would you write? Okay, so it's not too terrible. If you were able to do the lab, it should be okay. Okay, and again, anytime you learn something new, it's probably gonna be frustrating and you're not gonna be very good at it. But that's just how learning goes. So don't give up.
Well, pause.